He told me there was this guy with a huge open wound. There's a mirror across from my bed. Oh my fucking God, this was so scary. Holy fuck. And I saw like a ghost kind of leaving my body. I was getting swatted. And I looked in the mirror and I was literally melting and I started crying. I'll tell the story of how I was born. Because my mom just told me this. I had no idea. I've been studying the ego a lot and how the ego develops and what the ego is and what the truth is, if there was an objective absolute truth. But I realized how the ego develops. I didn't just read about it. No, there's a difference between knowing something and realizing something. So to the birth story. So here's how being comes before knowing. So how do you guys know how the ego develops? I've realized the ego starts developing when you're in your mommy's tummy. It starts at birth, basically, you know? This is relevant to the birth story. So when I was little, my mom told me I would not leave her side. I would not leave her. Like, I had to be next to her at all times. And I've always been anxious. Like, I feel like I remember when I was a little kid and I had anxiety and depression. And I'm like, why the fuck? How is that possible? How can you be born like that? Like, that's not normal. So I thought about this. Why the fuck have I had anxiety and shit since I was little? When I had all these realizations and when I realized what the ego is, and when I realized that the mind and body is separate, shortly after that, I called my mom and I started talking to her. And I realized my mom's a really spiritual person. And she was like, I know why you're like that. And she told me the story. She never told me this before. She told me that my birth was the most traumatic experience of her entire life. Dude, I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Now everything makes sense. And she told me I almost died during birth. She gave me this long story, and she had my oldest brother in like 15 minutes. It was the easiest thing ever. Came out in like 15 minutes on New Year's or something. And then she had my other brother, and that I think she didn't tell me about that, but I think it was fine. Forget. Actually, I think she might have had a C-section. But anyways, she had no feeling in the emergency room when I was coming out. She couldn't feel anything because, I don't know, she thinks something, like, they messed something up, or I don't know why, but she had no feeling and she couldn't push me out of her vagina. So the doctors and nurses were yelling at her. It was called the VSEC. Wait, VSEC birth. So anyways, everyone was yelling at her and she couldn't feel anything, and they're like blaming her. This is her perspective. She was feeling like the nurses were angry and yelling at her, like, oh, you didn't watch the video on how to do this properly. You didn't do the pelvic strengthening exercises, blah blah blah. They were screaming at her, like, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck and they were like trying to turn me around, and it was a really long process, and like she was in immense pain. And they wouldn't give her any drugs. She said it was too late. So she had to deal with the pain. And she just couldn't feel anything. So she couldn't push me out. Like, she literally said, how are you supposed to know what to do if you can't feel anything? No wonder you like being choked. So she told, yeah, it was the most traumatic experience ever. And she felt the nurses were being like really mean. And the doctors were being really mean. So anyways, basically, I almost died in birth, but I survived. You know, we always come out on top, baby. That's how we do it. So I wouldn't leave her side after that. And obviously, like, I didn't know why. She just told me I would not leave her side. And obviously, because I thought like I was born into this world almost dead. Like, people are trying to kill me. Who knows what I thought? Because that's when the ego starts developing. Like, just because you can't talk and just because you haven't accumulated enough knowledge to use the dualistic symbols of language, use dualistic symbols and language, like, that doesn't mean that your ego isn't developing. So I know for a fact the ego starts developing when you're probably still in the womb. Like, you feel what your mom feels in the womb. You start feeling emotions there. The only way you can start existing is by distinguishing yourself from everything else. And that's when the ego starts developing. Like, you're born and the ego, like, you start developing into who you are as a little baby. That's how the ego starts to form. This is why not every kid is born exactly the same. Like, they feel what their mom feels. Yeah, so that's why I was scared to leave her side. And there was another problem. Every time I ate, I would scream in pain. I would not stop crying, my mom told me. I would scream, and it was like torture at the top of my lungs, she told me. And none of the doctors knew what was wrong. No one knew what was wrong. They just said dumb shit like, oh, maybe they're allergic to this or that. Until she took me to a specialist, and they had to give me steroids. And finally, after like months or however long of this torture of every time I ate, finally I could eat normally without pain. Yeah, they had to give me like growth hormone or something as a baby. So I assume all this contributes to who I ended up being. So Dr. K talks about ego a lot, and he calls this stuff a samskar. So there's lots of names for it, but maybe since we're on Twitch, you guys are familiar with Dr. K. He calls it a samskar. And I've heard him talk before, but I didn't actually know what that really meant. I didn't listen to it that in depth. But I'll tell you, like, what a samskar actually is there's some traumatic experience, some big experience that happens, and that experience shapes your decisions. So you go through you have a traumatic experience, and you're like, you learned during that experience that this thing is not good. So I'm going to avoid this thing. I'm going to go down this path instead of that path. So I probably learned, like, that's like deeply ingrained into me. Like, maybe that's part of the reason why my appetite has been so fucked my whole life. And like, certain foods would literally make me gag when I was younger, and my dad would be like, you're staying there until you finish it. And I would just stay there and try it, and I'd like literally throw up if I put it in my mouth. Like, stupid ass kid. Dude, can't even eat. Like, so it's a lot to share. I don't even know where to start, honestly. Okay, the first psychedelic I did was ketamine. And I didn't even know really that ketamine was a psychedelic. Last year, so a friend of mine did ketamine for depression, and they told me how much it helped them. And I was like, it's probably not gonna help. And I'd like ignored them for a bit and didn't really think much. I was like, nah, nothing can help me. I'm always gonna be depressed. So I convinced myself that there's no point trying this and wasting my time and money, because nothing's gonna change anyways. But I ended up finding a place where I didn't need to get doctor's permission. I could just go in. And I was like, okay, let's try this. So I did ketamine, and it felt good, but I didn't know what the fuck was happening. What was it actually doing? Why was this making me feel better? I didn't actually know why. Most people don't actually know why. They have some idea, but they don't actually know why. So I went there, and it like felt good. It felt amazing listening to the music on ketamine, and it felt really healing. And it kind of like took all the worries away for a bit. You could describe it as like all your problems in everyday life. They're so small, and it's not worth being depressed about. Like, it's not worth feeling bad. So that's like a really vague description of how you might feel the first time you do ketamine. So I did it like 10 times over the course of a few months, and I went to a doctor's office, and it was expensive as fuck. So how ketamine actually works is it disables the default mode network in your brain, and the default mode network is kind of like associated with your sense of self, your connection to yourself, to your ego. So psychedelics help dissociate you from yourself. I did like 10 of those. I kept going up in the dose, and the doctor was like, what the fuck? How? I went to this insanely high dose. And he's like, wait, are you sure this is okay? And I was like, yeah, I feel fine. Like, at worst, there was some nausea at the end, like when I got home. So I kept wanting to go higher because I felt like, okay, this isn't working. Like, I'm just enjoying the music, but like, it doesn't seem like it's working. So I did that like 10 times, and I felt okay. Eventually I stopped doing ketamine, and I never had ego death. I didn't really know what an ego death was. There were moments during the experience that I was a little bit dissociated, but I didn't have full ego death. I was going through like random experiences. So I stopped doing ketamine. I went on to shrooms, and shrooms ended up being way more healing than ketamine. Way more healing. But I didn't know why. I didn't actually know why until this month. I learned how psychedelics work. So I did so many shrooms, and I didn't know how they work. So I'll tell you, the first time I did shrooms with a friend, I felt like really happy. It kind of felt like if you've ever had an indica strain, it felt like the best body high you could ever have without any of the sluggishness. Just pure light as a feather happy. The first time was amazing. Like it didn't feel like a psychedelic. It just felt like really good. It kind of felt like MDMA the first time. It was amazing. The first time like it felt really good. Nothing like really happened, and I was like, wait, I didn't see anything. I thought I was supposed to see stuff on shrooms. I thought I was supposed to have like hallucinations and stuff. No, that didn't happen. I only took like 2 grams the first time, and then my friend ate the rest of them. So the second time, okay, I took like 4 grams, and holy shit. I have to tell you what happened I took 2 grams, and then after that, I tried MDMA, right? And MDMA felt so amazing. I just danced the whole night with music blasting, and it was the best feeling you could ever imagine. And music was so amazing. Dancing was so amazing. And an old friend, it's funny, a friend came over because I was getting death threats. I was getting swatted daily. Somebody sent me like my address. They sent me plans of how they're going to break into my house. So an old friend came down. They're like, do you want somebody down there with you? Because I'll fly down there. And he came down to, keep me safe. I kind of wanted to see him anyways. So he came down, and I met him like 6 or 7 years ago. He was a good friend I met on a game, and we met in California, and we like got food. Just like good friends, like a brother. He came down, and I did MDMA with him, and I just danced the whole night, and I like talked. I just wanted to talk forever. Like I did not want to stop. I just wanted to talk forever. I talked until my throat hurt. I wanted to keep talking, and I just like start whispering. I would just start whispering because my throat hurt. Because I talked too much. I was screaming over the music, vibrating the whole house. Oh yeah, and my jaw was clenching. I took pictures, and I didn't know. I didn't know that my jaw was clenching. Like he didn't point it out to me. So I did that. And then I liked MDMA so much I wanted to do it again, but there wasn't any. And this is so we went to find some. A friend brought it before, but they didn't have any more. So we went to Portland, and this was last year. Okay, we went to Portland, and we tried to find some MDMA randomly. And my friend was like, he's like a freaking gangster dude. Like we went to the homeless area, and he just tried to find somebody, and he found this homeless guy who took him to go get MDMA. Oh, dude, this is crazy. Okay, so he found a guy, and the guy's like, yeah, I know, dude. So he brought him to this tent with a bunch of homeless people in there, and he told me in the tent they had the dealer, and he had this big bag of MDMA, and there was a guy, they had like knives and guns, and he told me there was this guy with a huge open wound in his thigh from like doing heroin or something. And yeah, he sold him some MDMA. Right, so success. So we went home, and we did it. I did it. He didn't do it. I had a sober person with me. It's not good. So I did it the first night, and I wanted to go outside and take pictures really bad. This is how I realized, like, I'm hella I was born, something developed in me, hella OCD, and crazy OCD. I'm crazy OCD. I used to be. I don't think I am anymore. But so I wanted to use my good this camera actually, because this is a good camera. I wanted to take good pictures. So I got the camera, and we were about to go out to take pictures, and I couldn't find the memory card. And all I wanted to do was find the fucking memory card. And I swear to God, I saw this memory card every single day for a year straight. It was just sitting there. And then I moved my computer, my old computer, where the memory card was sitting on top of it. I moved it, and then I couldn't find it. the one time I actually needed it. So I looked for the memory card all night. I literally went crazy, and my friend kept telling me to stop, to calm down, and I was like, yeah, I have to look for it. I know I know it's here. I'm fine. Like, I looked for it everywhere. The entire house, every drawer, around the entire side of the room. Like, Nova must have like not like there's vents on the floor. Nova probably like found it and played with it and knocked it in a vent or something. I don't know how. I never found it. But I looked for it until I threw up. Dude, literally I looked for it until I felt so bad that I threw up. I don't even want to think about it, actually. So I actually finally calmed down. I was trying to drink water. Yeah, my friend was like making me drink water at least, but that was awful because I could not. The drug enhanced my OCD. I could not stop looking for it, and all I would have had to do was just get out of the house probably and do something else. But since I would not get up, since I would not stop, it would not stop. The OCD would not stop. Dude, that actually, like, I think I almost went crazy there. I would not stop looking for it. So I did that that was not the first time I did MDMA. So don't fucking do, like, oh my gosh. Doing it in the house is not good, dude. But I didn't plan to stay in the house. I just wanted to find the memory card so I could leave the house. But I never found it. So I couldn't leave the house, dude. I did it a few more times, and they weren't like, I didn't have those. Like, I ordered the memory card, so I did a few more times, and like, it was fine. The last time I did it, I stayed up for like 48 hours. Like, this is the longest I've ever been awake. Fast forward a few months later, I didn't touch the MDMA. A few months later, I got this test kit, and I tested the drug, and it wasn't MDMA. There was meth in it. So it was literally meth. I was like, I did the test multiple times and it like turned orange first. And I was like, holy fuck. It's fucking meth. Yeah. And the thing is, it felt very similar to MDMA, but there's a very big difference. Like, I know now I would be able to identify it now that I've done them both, but meth it does not have that love. It does not have that same amount of love. And that's why the meth enhanced my OCD. And also, it burnt the fuck out of my mouth. It hurt, like, because last time I took MDMA, I like put it under my tongue for a bit and swallowed it. I did the same with the meth that I thought was MDMA. So test your drugs. There's test kits you can do. Should definitely test it. But the thing is, it looked exactly like the MDMA I had before. It looked exactly the same. I stopped for a bit. I just stopped after that last time. Dude, my appetite was so fucked after that. I tried to force myself to eat. That's when I dropped down to like 114 pounds. 110 pounds, like severely malnourished. I was already really low weight. Like, I was already incredibly unhealthy from drinking so much alcohol. So I had the awesome idea. I didn't want to smoke weed, but I wanted to consume cannabis so that I could stimulate my appetite so that I could eat. So I found 2 edibles that I had, and holy fucking shit. I had no tolerance to cannabis, but I used to do it a long time ago. So I was like, yeah, this is a good idea. I'm just going to take a couple edibles, like, and so I can eat. Like, I'll probably chill out because I was feeling like fucked up and I had no appetite or anything. So I took some edibles and we went on a walk. I really wanted to go outside. And then did you know that smoking cannabis and consuming it in the form of an edible are very different? Because when you consume it, your body converts it to a more powerful substance. It turns into a psychedelic. By the way, before this, with the after the accidental meth shit, I couldn't sleep. Oh my gosh. That one time I tweeted, I would close my eyes, and since I stayed up so long, I was immediately falling and I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, it's like I was astral projecting. I was falling. There's this feeling of falling, and I could literally see around me. Like, I closed my eyes and I could see around the room in black and white, and that scared the fuck out of me. Like, I called my friend in to like sleep on the floor in my room because that was so scary. Holy shit. So anyways, I took the edibles and I entered into like a whole different state of consciousness, and it's like time slowed down and everything was so weird, and I had an anxiety attack. It was fine, and then I ate. I couldn't breathe. Like, I don't know why. I couldn't breathe, and I was feeling all these emotions. I started crying my eyes out, and this is from the meth and then doing edibles after to fix my appetite. So I calmed down and I just like laid down and thought about it. And then I wrote some stuff down because I saw this new perspective in that different mode of consciousness. I wanted to write it down because it's like I was a different person. Anyways, edibles were really scary because it was actually a really powerful psychedelic that I didn't even know. And I only took it to try to get my appetite back. and they've never had such an effect on me like that. So anxiety attack, I didn't know what it was at the time. I thought like maybe I was dying, but that's what an anxiety attack is. It's not because you're thinking something. It's not because I'm thinking like all this bad stuff and like I'm scared of something. It just happened because my inner self, something was wrong with my inner self, my self-conscious and my body causing that attack. Like probably like withdrawing from the meth that I didn't even know was meth and then doing the edible. Anyways, I was fine. Nothing really bad happened besides that. I thought I was gonna like have a heart attack or something. My friend was like really addicted to weed at some point, so he was like, yeah, you're having an anxiety attack. And he had one before when he was withdrawing from weed, but he didn't know what it was, so he told me that. And yeah, it kind of made sense. So that was the end. I thought the MDMA fucked me up, and I was like, I'm never doing MDMA again. I'm never doing this again because I did it too much. Of course now I know it wasn't MDMA. So that's when I wanted to do shrooms again because shrooms felt really healing. They felt like they were healing me. So I found some more shrooms and now you know why I told this whole story before I told you about my second trip on shrooms, dude. That was a lot, huh?
Lucky kid.
That's a lot to skip because that was a very traumatic experience. I didn't really realize what it meant though at the time. So that's when I did shrooms again, and I was expecting the same thing that happened the first time. I was expecting like some happiness, you know, like really light and spiritual. I took 4 grams, maybe a little more, and holy fuck. Before this, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research on MDMA and like why you're supposed to wait a month between each time and what do shrooms do. And I read so much about shrooms and MDMA. I read so much. I researched so much. And I remember people like talking about yawning. If you're yawning so much, that means like you're using too much dopamine or something. Fuck, I kind of forget what I read. But it was like normally it attaches to your serotonin receptors. I don't even know if what I read was right. At the time, I didn't know if what I read was right. So I started yawning a lot. The receptors are fried, something like that. And like I started yawning a lot. I don't know why. To me, I was like, holy fuck, I gave myself brain damage and I'm gonna be crazy forever. I read yawning and I would not stop yawning, and that scared the fuck out of me. I was like, oh my god. I had a panic attack on 4 grams of shrooms. I was going crazy. I couldn't think properly. I was freaking the fuck out. It was like, holy shit, dude. Imagine your worst nightmare and you're living it. And then like I'm remembering all that shit I read. Like I can't stop yawning. Like, oh, that means I fucked up my brain and my dopamine receptors and my serotonin receptors. And I was freaking out. And I looked in the mirror and I was literally melting and I started crying. And I took my makeup off and there was no comfort. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter if there's calm music on. Nothing matters. There's this intense feeling of discomfort that cannot be quenched. It's not just discomfort. It's literally like your soul is being tortured, and you're gonna be like that forever. And I started thinking about my mom, about how my mom went crazy for a bit from stress, and I was like, oh my fucking god, I'm gonna go crazy like my mom, and I'm gonna be like that forever. My friend was like trying to calm me down, and I called some other friends, and I was telling them about how I was like, why aren't you here? You would never let me do these drugs. And I was like, you should have came here, dude. And I was like mad. I was mad at the friend with me because this guy doesn't know shit. He already fucked up his brain. He's already done so many drugs. Like, of course he's gonna let me do this stuff. And I was like, why aren't you here, Tal? And I was like, I was talking to my friend. He's like, why don't you tell me this is not a good idea? And like, I was like, that was really mean to my other friend because I was like, he already has brain damage. Like, holy shit, dude. And he was trying to calm me down. And then my other friend, because I was telling my other friend, and he doesn't really know that much about psychedelics. He was like, is this normal? And I was like, is she gonna be okay? He was like, yeah, it's just a panic. It's fine. Like nobody's ever died on shrooms. Like, I almost gave myself a heart attack or something. And this lasted for hours, which felt like a lifetime. It's like time stopped. And I was gonna be like this for eternity. And this would not ever stop. And of course, I did all this research. Of course, and all this research is what caused this panic attack, because I read all this bad shit. So I cried for like an hour thinking I was going crazy. And I tried to lay down in the light and I couldn't sleep. So I got up and my friend put some music on, and like, it was like my favorite songs, but it didn't matter. The songs weren't doing anything. Nothing was helping. I just could not get rid of this feeling of impending doom for eternity. The worst feeling you could ever, you can't even dream of this feeling. You can't. You've never consumed drugs to influence your consciousness to even be able to imagine this feeling of immense torture and suffering. That's what it was. So after a few hours, like I peaked, went super crazy, and it was the worst time. It was the most frightening time for somebody who's accepted death. I've accepted death before, and this was worse than death. At the time, it's worse than death because death, like, it just ends. But this was like torture for eternity. So after a few hours, I tried to calm down, but I didn't know how to calm down. Eventually, it started to wear off and I started to feel a bit better. And then it was great. Like, it was like I survived hell. It was like I went to hell and I battled a few of my demons and I came back and I won. And it's like, ooh, you have to go all the way down. You have to go all the way down before you can rise up and feel what's at the top, dude. It was so amazing. That was the best feeling ever after that. Like, it's like I won, dude. And then it was mostly worn off. It was still, like, my eyes are still really dilated. But I came back. We watched Kill Bill. And Kill Bill was so amazing. The cinematography was so fucking amazing. The colors were amazing. I had so much respect. I had so much admiration for the cinematography. Everything. It was so amazing. I love Kill Bill, dude. The cinematography, the colors, everything. I'll show you the tweet. Oh, look. You're so fucking lucky, kid.
Sup, nerd.
Love it. Chilling watching Kill Bill. Oh, the baby. Oh my gosh. Such a cute baby. Such a good kitty. This was so beautiful. The colors were so vibrant and amazing. Oh my gosh. Me trying to find an authentic katana to order. So that was the end of the terrifying shroom trip. What happened after that? I still don't know shit at this point, by the way. But I felt happier, at least. That was back in September of last year. So I thought I knew a lot, but I only knew a little bit. I knew a little bit. I still knew more than most people. But I didn't actually know shit. Now that I actually know stuff today, I say that. After that, I felt like I conquered a lot of my demons, though I didn't at the time. I mean, I did, but I didn't conquer all of them. And this whole time I was calling Nova my spirit guardian, because that's how it felt when he was with me. This was a long process of doing psychedelics. The next time after that terror trip, I did shrooms again, and I felt like a little kid. Like, I felt like my brain was so imbalanced, so set in this rational, logical way of thinking with no creativity. I was stuck in that way of thinking. And this third time I did shrooms, it was like the third time, I felt like a carefree spirit, like a little kid. I wanted to like go like dance around and color with crayons. And like I looked around and everything's so ugly here. I'm like, gosh, I need more decorations. Like I hate it here. It's so old. I just wanted to do creative things. I remember when I took shrooms, I was sitting down and I remembered the terrifying trip and that feeling of the terrifying trip. And I was like, wait, I had it in my head that it's just a feel, like it doesn't have to go down that terror trip anymore. It doesn't have to. So I thought that, and I was like, I can control this experience. It doesn't have to go that. And it almost went into that time loop, terrifying feeling again. But I stopped it, and I was like, wait, this is all just a perception. This is all just a way of thinking. Shrooms isn't causing this. My thoughts are causing this. So when I realized that, that's when all that terrifying garbage went away. All that fear that I had inside my mind, gone. Because that's what fear is. It's just ideas in your head. So I played in the house, and I played with the string, and I played Nova, and that was amazing. That was a really beautiful experience. And then I did it again, and this time I went on a walk outside, and it was so amazing. This was last year, if you're just entering. So the fourth time I went on a walk, and it was Halloween, and October's by far my favorite month. I love October. I love Halloween, and I never got to really celebrate it, even though I wanted to celebrate it every time and dress up and do all this fun stuff. And I never got to. So I went on a walk, and there was this awesome place to walk, and there were so many cool Halloween decorations, and it just hit me. Like, I was walking, and it just hit me. This is the best day of my life. It's like I was living the best day of my life on that walk. And it's like I realized everything. And I didn't know at the time what the heck was going on, but I think this was a breakthrough. This is what they call a breakthrough. And it was actually a really major one. I think it was breaking through to the realization of infinite love and what God means. Not God in like there's a guy in the sky, but the deeper sense of God, which is too deep to explain here right now, because we're still telling the story of how I realized this stuff. So, and at the time I still didn't know. I didn't know anything at this time. I was just living as the embodiment. I won't even use these words yet. It's called a higher power. It's no, you don't say what it's called, because language is subjective and dualistic. You can call it whatever you want, theoretically. It's how you describe it that matters, and what it actually means. Because one word to one person is different to another person. God to some ignorant atheist person, I used to be atheist, is some magical guy in the sky. But God to a spiritual person is, or an ancient philosopher is, Marcus called it the Logos, right? Yeah, you can call it a higher power. You can call it whatever you want. So if I'm describing something, don't say, no, it's not called that, because you're wrong. You can't tell me what I want to call it. Just because certain religions are corrupt and they manipulated the truth to their own benefit to create a cult doesn't mean there's not truth to it. I'm not talking about God in the sense of being a Christian, because Christianity is a personalized version of the absolute truth of God. And it's corrupt because of how personalized it is. It's corrupt. It's not like Christians are the same as atheists. They're both dumb in a certain sense. They both don't know what they're talking about. Anyways, so I was walking, and that's when I realized like so much happiness and love, and I just loved everything. It was literally like I just wanted to walk and talk, but my knowledge was so limited at the time that I didn't know what I was experiencing at the time. So I went on these amazing walks, and I had these like weird flashes. Like there was this one really crazy one where I thought I was crazy for a bit, but I was walking, and I just had this idea that I was actually these people that I knew, and it's like I understood them, and I was like living as them. It was like this realization, and I had no idea what the fuck that meant. I don't know what the hell was going on. Now I know, but at the time I thought it was like full of just infinite love and stuff. I was connected. I was like connected with everyone that I knew, and it's really hard to describe. I didn't even know how to describe it at that point, because I didn't study philosophy. I didn't really read any philosophy. I didn't study metaphysics or spirituality. I never really read any religious texts other than when I was little and I would debate Christians as an atheist because I knew something was up. like they were being hypocritical. So I really wanted to talk about this, but I had no idea how to talk about this. And the reason why it's so hard to talk about is because it's because of the limits of language. Language is severely limited. It's so specific. It's like I could talk about that forever, but I just didn't have the vocabulary or knowledge to talk about it. Most people don't know how to think properly. You know the saying, we only use 10% of our brain? Everybody's heard that, right? Do you know what that actually, like what that's actually implying? It's like what that actually is trying to say is that we're only aware, like we're only conscious of like 10%, you could say.
Yo.
But that's what the subconscious is. We use our entire brain, we're just not conscious of it. Most people have no idea. I didn't until literally like this year with lots of experiences and studying and training in psychedelics. There's a way to alter your level of consciousness so that you're more in tune with your subconscious mind. That's what I'm saying. So it's like this whole 10% thing, like you can raise your level of consciousness to be more in tune with your subconscious. What do you mean people use it all but only use 10%? I don't get it. Okay, so of course we're using our brain, we're functioning, we're developing, we're changing, our ego is growing, but we're not aware of all the inner workings of how that's going on. Normally a person is kind of just like a slave, literally. Like from the moment you're born, your ego starts absorbing everything. And this is why I told the story about how I was born and I had that really traumatic experience. My ego started developing at that young age because I was still using my brain even though I wasn't conscious that I was using it. It was developing. So you're always using your brain. You're just not conscious of it. And when I say you're not conscious of it, I'm saying that your conscious mind is separate from your subconscious mind, and your mind is separate from your body in a sense. So that's a problem with communicating spirituality, because you can read all you want about it, but you're not going to understand anything until you both experience it and you know it. So what I think I realized is that I used to think I knew everything, but I only knew like half of the story, you know? You don't actually realize, you don't actually know it. Know it. You know stuff, but realizing something is different from knowing something. Knowing something is when you go on the internet and you read something like the sky is blue, or you read something like it's cold in space, you know? Like, but what if you've never been cold before? You know, you don't know what cold feels like. You just read like what other people try to explain it as, you know? When I was on that psychedelic walk and I had this connection with everyone, I didn't know what that meant until this month when I started studying philosophy and metaphysics, and I actually meditated while sober. So, and that's when everything hit me. That's when all these realizations clicked, and it was insane because everything clicked in like a few days. It's like I reached insanely high levels of consciousness because of all these psychedelics. I did like ounces of shrooms. I only told you like about 4 trips of shrooms, but I did a lot of shrooms because I knew it was onto something with that. Like I knew this was the way to heal. I got a bunch of books. Hold on, wait. So I'm still, you guys should join my Discord. I posted a picture in general. I'll show it here, but join my Discord. Follow me on Twitter too. But I posted a picture in Discord. So I developed a really great foundation. So now I need to read all these books. I started reading some of them. So I developed that foundation. And so now I am going to read all of the philosophy like in order. Some of them have some of it right, some of them are wrong on some things. But the reason I'm going to read it is because it'll be useful for me to know all of the arguments and all of what people think, so that I think I could do a good job, but it'll be better if I can reference things so that when I'm talking to people I can reference like history. Like that's what I need to learn. I want to learn history and philosophy now, like the actual history of it, because I already know how to filter out the garbage because I already know the real truth. So what is valuable now is knowing history, because you can learn a lot from that, and it will improve my ability to communicate to others and talk to others and debate others. So that's where I'm at now. Because I know a lot right now, but I know like the big picture, and I know the truth, and I know like if somebody tells me something, I know if it's right or wrong usually. But walking them through why it's right or wrong is the hard part, because some people get lost in illusion. They go down this path of lies and illusion. When I started meditating and studying this, all this stuff hit me. All the psychedelic trips that I did started to make sense. And I realized what psychedelics are actually doing. And I feel like nobody's ever told me this. And I tried to research this a lot. I read a lot about it. And nobody ever fucking told me how psychedelics work. Nobody knows how psychedelics work that I know. Nobody ever said it. And I realized what psychedelics are actually doing. What are they doing? I'll tell you, dude. They're forcing you to meditate subconsciously. They're pushing you very, very hard into a state of meditation. That's the simple sentence of how they work. Now you can talk about that a lot more, but that's what they're actually doing. And I had no idea what the fuck it was doing. I know this was good, but I didn't know why. Like, what the fuck is happening? Is this magic? Until I sat down and I learned how to meditate, and I did it, and I practiced breathing techniques. I learned a lot of breathing techniques, and there's breathing techniques that alkalize the body. There's a guy who mastered this breathing technique, and he used it to stay warm, and he hiked like cold mountains in just a shirt and shorts, because by controlling your breathing, you can control your metabolism to raise your body heat. You can burn your fat faster, and the more you experience this, the more your fat literally turns into something called brown fats. I think it's brown fats, and it's normally like white or yellow fats. And those fats burn faster, and you can raise your body heat like that. And you can literally test it. You can do the breathing technique. Deep breaths in through your nose and exhale. And you're alkalizing your body. Your body is capable of like really deep levels of oxygen saturation. And you can literally stay in ice for like hours. You've seen people do this. You've seen David Blaine do this. Like it's not fake. You can do it. And you can literally test it with pH strips too. And this can naturally release DMT. You produce DMT naturally in the brain. When I did that and I started meditating, I practiced the breathing. I had no idea how to meditate because I used to think of nothing. The proper way to meditate, how you're supposed to do it, is you're supposed to turn off all your thoughts. So how do you do that? It's like some people have they're really ADHD and they have so many thoughts. And it's like you tell them to think of nothing and they start thinking of nothing. They don't know how to turn off the inner monologue in their head, right? And that's what my problem was. I had this constant inner monologue in my head that would not turn off. And it was because I was a streamer. Like being a streamer, literally it trains your brain to be more reactive. I posted this on Twitter a while ago, even though I didn't fully understand it. So the best thing to do is to focus on your breathing. Exactly. Like you have insane multitasking responsibilities as a streamer. So my brain, like I got worse and worse because I never turned it off. I was always constantly doing something, reacting. I literally forgot how to think properly. Most people never learned how to think properly, actually. Like I never learned either until now. So yeah, I stayed in streamer mode even off stream, and a lot of streamers do. It's fucking so unhealthy, dude. And most streamers are fucked up because of it. Yeah, I focused on my breathing and it was insane. I tried to turn off all thoughts. I tried to realize that nothing is real. I tried to turn off all my perceptions. I am not my eyes. I'm not my limbs. I'm not my body. Like I'm not my body, because my mind is not my body. You can separate your mind from your body. People just never they never got taught how to. And I realized all the shit like Bruce Lee, like be like water. When you pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Like that's what he's trying to explain. You can separate your mind from your body. And I had no idea how to do this until I actually sat down and meditated, and I tried it. I've tried meditating before, but I tried really hard this time, and I was like, I'm not going to stop until I'm not just going to sit there for like 5 minutes and like nothing happens. No, I did it until something happened. So I did the pose, the cross-legged pose as best as I could. And I controlled my breathing. And here's how I realized a lot. Nova came and he was meowing and he was being really annoying and distracting. And I was so annoyed because I was trying to meditate. I'm like, fuck Nova, you're ruining everything. And I was like, wait, the only way you can actually do this is if you literally ignore everything. And Nova actually helped me. Nova fucking helped me realize this. I don't know if I could have done it without Nova because he was yelling at me and touching me while I was meditating. And I was like, wait, no, I have to ignore this. And I had to pretend that he wasn't there. Even I had to phase it out. And that's when it fucking hit me. Like, wait, I can't be mad at Nova. Like, no, because I can't, because I'll never, like, I have to shut this out. You have to shut everything out. And when he was touching me and I maintained the meditation mode, that's when I felt like I mastered it. Like, I mastered a lot. Because if you can shut out all of your perceptions, even when somebody is pushing you and yelling at you, then you can maintain that mode while conscious and walking around. And that's what I did. And it was so fucking amazing because I was in this meditation mode at all times. And I literally feel like I evolved, and it was insane. I saw everything differently. I was literally in an entirely different state of consciousness while walking around. And all of these insights kept coming to me. And I realized how to meditate. At first, I just focused on my breathing. And then Nova came and he interrupted me and he touched me. And I eventually learned how to ignore that. But then I tried more advanced meditation. I tried focusing on a certain subject or a certain feeling. Like, what do I want to know right now? Why do I feel this way about this person? So I focused. I don't think you have to remove all of the unnecessary thoughts in your head. You have to turn the inner monologue off. And when you take every thought, when you take those unnecessary thoughts and you remove them one at a time, you remove all these thoughts. And when they're all gone, you have nothing but the truth, the real truth, the answers, you know? Not just these ideas that you read somewhere, not just these irrational, imaginary ideas that were ingrained into your head, but the real, absolute truth. Like, you cannot get to a deeper truth because there is no other truth. When you remove all those unnecessary thoughts, that's when you can actually realize the truth. So I learned how to maintain this mode while walking around and stuff. And I learned how to focus on things that were troubling me. Not think about them. I focused on them, and I ask my inner self. It's like, I don't actually ask. I don't talk in my head and ask, but I developed a connection to my spirit, and I could focus on a subject and get all the answers. It would literally come to me like magic, and it was so mind-blowing. It was so insane. And I got so many answers to so many different things. And all of these things I experienced on psychedelics came to me. The truth came to me. Yeah, my spirit. That's what I call it. My thoughts are not my spirit. My ego is not my spirit. Your ego is what holds you back. And my ego was so fucking inflated. It was so fucking confused and delusioned and full of garbage, absolute garbage, trash, disgustingness. When I turned off the ego, when you dissociate yourself, and you can call it the default mode network in the brain, and that's what psychedelics do. They deactivate your default mode network. And that's what I learned how to do without drugs. And that's what ego death is when people say ego death. But I feel like most people just have a temporary ego death and they don't actually realize what it means. So that was the most amazing, groundbreaking experience. Like I feel like I realized the answer to everything, the entire universe, everything. So immense, overwhelming love. You at some point you realize that everything is love. It doesn't make sense. Like, how can hate be love? How can war be love? Why do people hate? Imagine back in the day, there were two villages, and some guy steals a pig from the other village. He sees a pig on his land, and he takes the pig. And the other guy, the owner of that pig, sees that he took the pig, and he goes and he asks for it back. And the guy's like, "No, it's my pig. I can't give it back. I already ate him." So the guy he stole that from, he's gonna be really upset. He's gonna be really upset about that. You stole my pig. You damaged like my future. Me and my family are gonna starve now. We've been raising that pig for years. So now he feels hurt that he took that pig that he didn't even know was his that other guy's pig, right? So what is he gonna do? He's gonna go back to his village and he's gonna get some people and he's gonna go back and he's gonna be like, all right, I need my revenge. I'm gonna kill this guy's kid because he took my pig. He caused my family to starve. I'm gonna kill this guy's kid. So he takes some people and he goes and he pillages the village and he's like, all right, now we're even. But then the other village is like, they're gonna want revenge. It's like an infinite cycle of hate. So what started this whole thing is the guy had so much love to take care of his family with the pig that he wanted to get revenge for his family out of love. But to the other people, they saw it as hate. There's love to every side to every part. Everything starts with love, right? That one's like, you could talk about infinite love for like 2 hours, dude. I can't explain it right now in a few minutes. But yeah, it's like the concept of yin and yang. It's part of the same coin, you know. Psychedelics are a very powerful tool, but you have to go in with the proper knowledge, you know. So for a lot of people, they'll never just be able to meditate and do this stuff. Like I didn't do it with just meditation. Personally, it took my entire life, lots of suffering, lots of introspection, and then lots of psychedelics, and then lots of studying, and then practicing meditation. And I realized how psychedelics work. And here's something interesting that I haven't heard anybody talk about really. The more disconnected you are from your spirit and the less in tune you are with your emotions, the higher likelihood that your psychedelic trips are going to be bad. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have a terror trip. That's what happened, you know? It's because you have a lot of internal processing you have to go through. So I didn't realize like why did I have such a terrifying psychedelic trip before? It's because my spirit was so cloudy. I was so attached to my sense of self and all these imaginary ideas that were put into my head that when the shrooms were forcing the truth and I was rejecting the truth. It was trying to help me meditate, but I was rejecting it. So you took too much negativity in with you on the first trip. It's more like there was too much negativity in me that I wasn't aware of because I wasn't in tune with my emotions. And I thought I was. Like, everybody thinks they know when they're mad, but did you know that in the brain there is always some emotion going on in your brain? In the prefrontal medial cortex, I believe, there's always some emotion going on with your thoughts. There's always some emotion connected to your thoughts. You just haven't learned how to recognize it. And if you don't feel anything, that's because you're not in tune with your emotion. Another really cool thing. So when you break through, when you reach higher levels of consciousness, I noticed why. Here's how I know. Okay, let me back up a sec. You ever hear when people do psychedelics, they experience their psychedelic trip, and then when they smoke weed, the weed trips change? I know why now. The weed seems like a mini shroom trip for some people. It's because they broke through to a higher level of consciousness, and that opened up new possibilities. So that literally changes the weed trip, because I noticed I would smoke weed before, and sometimes there was just nothing but pure anxiety. I wouldn't feel anything but anxiety. And I did that. Nothing but anxiety. That's what happened when I was smoking weed, because I was so closed off. Just it's nothing. And then I had no thoughts, and it sucked. So the most amazing thing is that weed didn't change after my psychedelic trips. Weed changed after I meditated and realized all this stuff consciously and sober. And holy fuck, that's how I realized this, because most people just take psychedelics and their weed trip changed. But I achieved this higher level through sober conscious meditation. And then that raised the level of my weed trip. I just don't get how you know when you're opening up another level and not just padding your own ego up more. It's because you haven't learned how to shut off your inner monologue yet. So there's a clear difference. Like, you start to recognize everything. You start to recognize all your feelings and how they're connected and all these random thoughts. Like, most people don't recognize how many random shitty thoughts just go through their head. It's like, where are all these thoughts coming from? And you don't realize, like, this is why a lot of streamers say they can't focus. Like, there's this thread where all these streamers were like, I can't focus anymore. Like, I literally can't focus. Yeah, no shit, you can't focus because you've been streaming and reading and reacting to everything like 24/7, reacting to emails, notifications, reading chat, reading alerts. And then you get off, you look at social media, you go and reply to people, you reply to your notifications, you reply to emails. You're literally training your brain to be reactive. You're putting so much trash into your mind, and your ego is absorbing all this trash. So the only way you'll realize the truth is when you remove all those thoughts. It's not limited to streamers, but it's especially bad for streamers. Most people don't know this. Most people are like a sponge, like Mark said. Like, I was a sponge. I would just absorb everything without realizing it. And it turned me, like, it desensitizes you. It either breaks you or desensitizes you, right? Turns you into like a sociopath because you have to ignore all the useless trash. So that's why I say, like, even if I read this stuff and I don't let it affect me, it's still affecting me because I have to turn off. I have to realize that, oh, I can't absorb this trash. And if I don't realize that, then it's gonna turn me into a sociopath and desensitize me. Or you just absorb everything and you turn crazy, you know? Get depressed or something. So you have to learn how to discard all those trash, useless thoughts. And when you remove all those trash thoughts, that's when you get the truth. And that's how you know you're not just padding your ego, because the deeper into consciousness you get, the less selfish you become. And I used to think how this journey started is I went on a quest to try to increase my level of creativity. And I did all this research and I came across this stuff called aphantasia and hyperaphantasia, where it's like people have a vivid imagination. I was like, wait, was I born with aphantasia? Like, I have no creativity? Like, I can't imagine things? It's like when you close your eyes, how vivid is an apple? You know, you ever see that? It's like, can you picture an apple? Is it realistic? Or do you just think about it? Is it kind of black and white? Is it just black? Can you even see anything? Or can you just think of the abstract concept of an apple? Or can you actually see it? Well, I can't close my eyes and like actually see anything, but some people can. And I really wanted to develop that skill, and I didn't think it was possible, but now I do. And that's where I'm at now. I'm trying to open, and I think that's how you open the third eye, like one of the third eyes. I thought it was impossible to develop that skill, but now, like, I close my eyes and I can't see colors. Like, I can't see any. It's just black. Like, but some people can see colors, and I started seeing colors when I started pursuing this spiritual work, meditation. I see like flashes of colors, so I'm like starting to open up that eye. But like, that's my weakness. Like, I can't see stuff, but I'm really good at seeing the big picture, like abstract ideas and concepts, and that's how I realized all this stuff. But I feel like I might be able to develop that skill too. Oh, so I did DMT. I didn't say what happened with DMT, but I did DMT after I consciously meditated sober. I'm glad I did. I'm glad that I realized all this stuff before DMT. So I wrote something down. This is what I wrote down. And DMT was the most insane. It was so fucking crazy because I actually saw stuff. I've never seen anything. Before I would do shrooms and I didn't see anything. Like, at most, like, color. There were like more colors. So I wrote this down on DMT. DMT is produced naturally in the brain. and it's like the strongest. 5-MeO DMT is like the strongest psychedelic. So here's what I wrote down. Looking in the mirror revealed the true self, a shapeshifter, no one thing, everything and nothing, infinitely. When I wanted myself to stop changing, to try to make sense of everything, the self shape shifted into a more deformed version of itself. So what does that mean? And that was so fucking crazy. So here's how I did DMT. I went in my bed and I took a vape of it, took one hit of it, and I sat in bed, I sat up. I listened to some other guy talk about DMT first, and he's like, in order to break through, you have to take a hit and then another, and maybe like one more. And when you don't want to take another, that's when you take one more and you break through. So I had that idea in my head. And before I did this, I tried to meditate as best as I could. I tried to shut out everything, but I couldn't shut out fear. I couldn't turn anxiety off. I couldn't turn fear off. Maybe I should have tried to meditate a little longer, but I just did it. I did it while I was feeling anxiety. I couldn't turn the anxiety off. Maybe if I tried a little longer. So I did it anyways, feeling the anxiety. I did it alone, and it was actually crazy because when I would try to do it meditating, and I like tried to turn off all my perception, and I didn't feel my body. I tried to separate myself from my body, so I was just like limp. And I took one hit, and I took another, and I tried to calm down and focus. My body, seriously, my body moved on its own. I know my ego was still present, obviously. My ego was still present because I had these thoughts. I was thinking about what was happening still. I couldn't turn fear off, you know? And I thought about how they exorcise demons, and you see them like twist their head around, you know? You see the demons that are exorcised and they like twist their head around. My body was like moving on its own, and like my neck turned all the way to the side, and I closed my eyes, and it's like my body was an antenna tuning, like it was like an antenna trying to tune itself, like trying to connect to a spiritual dimension, you know? And when I like moved my head around with my eyes closed, it's like I could see all these patterns, and every direction changed the pattern. Every direction that my head was moving in, it's what like changed the pattern. So like I calmed down, and I let that, it was like searching for the signal. I let that happen, and I was calm, and there's a mirror across from my bed. Oh my fucking God, this was so scary. Holy fuck. Because I didn't plan to look in the mirror. I was just gonna close my eyes. And I saw like a ghost like kind of leaving my body, like a spirit. I was sitting down in my bed. So sitting in the bed, I looked in the mirror. It's like I was moving in the mirror, but I wasn't moving. It's like there was somebody in the mirror. It was so scary. Myself was in the mirror moving. It was so fucking scary. So what did I do? I got up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up. I got so close to the mirror that my nose was just about to touch it. Like any closer, and I would have touched the mirror, but I didn't touch it. And I faced myself, and it was the realest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It was more real than another person standing this close to me. It was the most real thing I've ever seen. Ever. I could see everything in it. And so, what did I do? I took one more hit. One more really deep hit. Oh my gosh. And what happened? No. My grounding is so strong. What happened was, in front of me, I saw myself changing. I literally was shape-shifting into so many different things. It would not stop changing. My hair changed. It's like my hair changed, my nose changed, my eyes. It was like my whole face was shape-shifting constantly, and it would not stay on any form. It would not stay on any form. It was like I saw an Amazonian woman. I saw something deformed, and every time I saw something, look, I had so much fear in me, but I know what fear is. I know the answer to things. So I was like, I know this is just, I'm only seeing this because this is my ego. I know I need to calm down. I know I know how to stay calm because I learned how to meditate. So here's the crazy, this is what I needed to see. This is what I was trying to overcome. I saw something pretty I kind of saw I'm kind of like shapeshifting into a pretty, I see something pretty and I was like, oh, I want that. I want to be that. I want to, that's so beautiful. I saw a beautiful woman and I wanted to be that. And when I wanted to be that, when my ego wanted that, guess what happened? It immediately started changing into the most deformed, disgusting shape ever. And that scared the fuck out of me. When I wanted to be the beautiful thing in the mirror that I saw, it changed into the most disgusting thing that you could possibly imagine. And this is the thing I've had trouble accepting, because I tried so hard to like be perfect. You know what thoughts were going through my head? I freaked out. I was trying to stay calm, but I was like, oh my God. I remember stories about how people wake up and suddenly they think they're this deformed alien, but they actually look normal. So I was like, oh my fucking God, oh my God, oh my God. What if I stay like this? What if I just broke my brain and I stay like this forever? And that like freaked me out. And I was like, no, I need to realize like I'm not my body. I tried to stop that. But I was so afraid of staying in that deformed self because you don't understand. Imagine, and I actually looked at like deformed spirit face. I Googled this and this is what came up. And seriously, I Googled this after, and this literally, I saw a face like this. I'm not kidding. This is what I saw. And it fucking terrified me because it terrified the fuck out of me. So I read this article, and you know what I thought before I read this article is that this girl's going to be a beautiful spirit. You know what I thought? And I read this article, and she's a beautiful spirit. And I was like, I need to, like, it made me feel so much love for her because she was born like this. 9 years old. Look, she's so great. Her name is Clara. She doesn't worry about her appearances. She's happy. Or she's like really strong for a little girl, you know? But she's really loving. That's what I had trouble, I tried so hard to, I love myself too much that I didn't want to let it go. That's what was so, that's the hardest thing to let go of, is you realize, I've been trying my whole life to be perfect as possible. I'm a Virgo. Virgos are perfectionists. So I try my whole life. And the more I try to stay the same, the more I try to latch onto something that will never be infinite, the more I'm going to suffer. And that's one of the reasons why I fell into such a deep depression. I mean, there's more to the story, but we're all going to die, and we're all aging, and we're all constantly changing. All of that is finite. You can't keep that forever. You have to accept it, that everything is constantly changing. So the more you try to hold on to something that you cannot grab, the more you're going to suffer. You can't grasp this and keep it forever. You have to just enjoy it. You have to embrace everything while you can. The more time you spend worrying and trying to latch onto something that's finite, the more you're going to suffer.